top story this week. In Florida, a CPS agent is arrested after being accused of forcing a mother to have sex with her by threatening to take her kids away. In California, Los Angeles CPS agents go on strike. Then they get what they want, which is more money and less work. Then they go back to work stealing children. However, one family is complaining because the strike just happened to take place when they had come up to California from North Carolina to go to court to try to get their grandson out of foster care, but couldn't because the social workers were too busy striking. The great Arizona skipping out on 6,000 plus child abuse reports since 2009 fiasco continues, with calls for the governor's hand-picked CPS boss to get sent packing, and problems with another 1,800 ignored reports being brought to light. Throw in the fact that they don't have enough foster homes to go around as it is, but the new team that the governor has in place at least reports progress in assigning more than 1,200 out of the 6,550 ignored cases to overwhelm CPS agents, and a memo from a cop is being blamed for the whole thing, although it was simply an attempt for them to try to lower caseloads for CPS agents. In Illinois, the child protective industry isn't reporting the accurate number of child deaths over the last 5 years in order to protect themselves from public scrutiny. In Rhode Island, an economics professor testifies that the child protective industry isn't paying the state's foster parents enough, and the U.S. Senate takes up a bill that would reauthorize the federal adoption bonus. In Canada, a former foster parent of the year finally goes on trial for sexually abusing foster kids, but the head lawyer ends up coming down with pneumonia and the trial has to be postponed again. In Australia, the vacancy rate for CPS agents has almost doubled over the last year. In England, a couple of grandparents are telling about the anguish that they suffered at not having legal rights to be the guardians of their grandchild who was snatched by British social workers. In England, a couple of grandparents are telling about the anguish that they suffered at not having legal rights to be the guardians of their grandchild who was snatched by British social workers. A pregnant woman who had a miscarriage while in jail was forced to clean up the mess while the baby was left in the cell with her. A British social worker gets booted off the register for using a council credit card for personal purchases. And Santa Claus threatens to report a young mother to social services because he thought her kid was too small. In entertainment news this week, Denise Richards is cleared by CPS agents after a false accusation from Charlie Sheen's other ex-wife, Brooke Mueller. In Oklahoma this week, a foster mother is being held without bail after killing a 2-year-old. In Arizona, a foster mother gets 100 days in jail after a baby drowned while in her care. The Texas Inspector General reopens the case of a foster child who was killed in care just before her first birthday back in October. And Texas CPS is cleared of any wrongdoing in the case of a little girl who was killed in a foster home after being snatched away while alive because the parents smoked pot. In Ohio, a former foster mother who was accused of raping kids who she babysat was back in court to either enter a plea or set a date for trial. In Nebraska, a foster father is sitting in jail and facing 11 felony charges of child sex abuse in connection with incidents dating back to 1998. In Virginia, a former social worker pleads guilty to a sex crime that took place back in 1989 and 1990. And in Colorado, a family is suing after CPS agents strip searched their 15-year-old daughter. In Nevada, 2 foster parents were arrested for child neglect. In New Jersey, a judge lifts bail restrictions on an Army major and his wife after they abused their adopted and foster kids for years. And in New York, a foster father is indicted after he pulled out a foster child's teeth. In New Mexico, a real father is still trying to get his kid back 5 years after she was adopted out from under him in Utah. In Washington, a couple who tried to rescue their kid from foster care is arrested and the kid is given back to CPS. An Ohio teenager admits to assaulting her social worker and stealing her car last summer. And finally, tonight in Georgia, a state social worker is accused of carrying illegal drugs while driving a mentally disabled man to a group home. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK. Over and out.